Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Stadium of Light. Norwich City have played a football game again. Norwich City have been beaten again. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with statistics? Do you want to start with performance? Do you want to start with David Wagner? I mean, I'm not quite sure where to start because there's so much that we could get into and dissect. I feel like in many ways I could copy and paste the verdict I did on Tuesday night after Middlesbrough. And just use that in place of this again. This was not an okay performance, as David Wagner described it. This was one where Norwich City got completely outplayed, got completely outfought, and were deservedly beaten 3-1 in the end. Let's start with the performance. I'll start with the performance. So Norwich City brought in Adam Forshaw. They tried to make a midfield free. It was a 4-5-1 out of possession. It was real containment. Norwich didn't press in the way that perhaps we would associate with them, but they did get joy in transition. They transitioned certainly at points. Okay, obviously, namely the goal, which is the best example that comes from a brilliant run by Callum Fisher, who, from an offensive perspective, was very good on his first championship start, and then obviously Hwang buries the goal. But overall, I think as a head coach, when you are known for being a certain thing, he got success with Huddersfield: high press, being aggressive, being intense, being uncomfortable to play against, being in no fear performances. This was anything but, and I think when you abandon that as a head coach in pursuit of a short-term gain, essentially, that's the end of the road, really, and that's where we've reached tonight. It's 6 defeats and 8, I think, for Norwich City. It's 1 win in 9 for Norwich City. It's not good enough for Norwich City. Don't let anybody tell you that this is the norm or this is what other teams endure. That's not true. Only teams who are really struggling to stay in a division produce the run of form that Norwich City have produced. 17 points in 14 games. That's the fewest Norwich City have taken at the start of a championship season since that infamous 08-09 season where they went on to get relegated. And Norwich are in complete freefall. The performances, the approach, the identity, everything is in complete freefall. It's a mess structurally. You've got players out there who are a rabble, really, in terms of the way they're set up. They're confused in possession. After the third goal game went in, heads dropped. You've got really senior players making catastrophic errors. It's all a mess, and this will continue unless someone does something about it. And I've stood within yards of David Wagner as he was speaking to BBC Radio Norfolk's Chris Gorham. I've spoken to Paddy and my colleagues who were in his press conference, and his demeanour was noticeably downbeat, as you would expect. He knows the game. He's a realistic guy. He will know the writing is on the wall, really, because this cannot continue, and Norwich City cannot let it continue. And I know people want to talk about the quality of the squad, and maybe I have issues with the quality of the squad in terms of framing it where the expectation has been or is in terms of towards the top end of the division. But there's no way this is a group of players with the appearances that they have, with the quality that they have, that should be anywhere near the position that Norwich City find themselves in. They're 3 points off 21st. They're 6 points off the playoffs. It's a desperate situation that they find themselves in. And if it doesn't turn quickly, then quickly everyone's going to be looking over their shoulders, and rightly so. And I just so again I've seen it. So a few things. I've seen a few arguments levelled towards this situation, maybe in defence of it, which is that no other coach would be able to get much more out of these players. I disagree with that statement. Norwich City have conceded over 90 shots in 5 games. That is ridiculous levels. That points to the structure not being good enough, the approach not being good enough. That's a head coach situation. That is a coaching flaw of this Norwich City team. A head coach and his coaching team should and could be able to change that. So that's number one. Secondly, the question of, who do you want? Who do you get? Well, to an extent, that's kind of irrelevant, because there are people who get paid a lot of money to make that decision. And an idea that this can just limp on until the 27th of November, I don't think is feasible, because Norwich City are going to continue to lose games with this structure, with this system, with this setup. They're confused. Wagner's confused. And so someone needs to put him out of his misery at this point. That felt to me a lot like the game at Luton last year, the one that signalled the end for Dean Smith, where he played a free at the back and tried something completely different, really in kind of desperation to try and get a result. and that is where we were today. And Norwich got completely outplayed. They scored a goal against the run of play. Sunderland dominated, scored 2 really good goals from defensive errors from Norwich. Jack Clarke is an electric footballer, but the first shot is a one from Hume, which gets deflected off Shane Duffy. I don't know if it's going on target or off target. I think it's officially been credited with Hume's goal, so looks like it was probably heading on target. But again, just a mistake from a senior player. Really, it was quite a limp attempt to get his body in the way. The second one is Jack Clarke beating 3 men. Dan Neil glides in. Norwich City's defence is all at sea. The structure that they were trying to build in terms of being contained and trying to hit them on the transition. As soon as you go to 2-1 down in that situation, that's done. The containment mission quickly becomes a rescue mission. And again, I thought the changes that he made were erratic. Norwich lost structure and rhythm when they came on. There was a little burst where they put a couple of crosses in, but again, really lacked quality. There were moments where players made poor decisions, and then it's compounded by Shane Duffy making a really bad error. Jack Clarke nabs it off him, runs into the box. Kenny McLean, who is being deployed as a centre-back, which is enough in itself. He has no choice, really, but to bring him down. Jack Clarke converts a penalty 3-1. I think Sunderland could have had more. Hemir had a shot he put over the bar. Alex Pritchard had one saved by George Long. They had 8 shots on target in total. This was a game that Norwich City got absolutely nowhere near the levels that they need to get to. And, you know, the approach, I get it in the context of Norwich City's run of form, but by the same token, Sunderland had lost 3 on the bounce before today. To approach this game like Sunderland, who are a very good side under Tony Mowbray, they're everything Norwich aren't in terms of energy, youthfulness, identity, all of those aspects, quality. But to approach this game like that was negative, I think, for want of a better word. It was the wrong approach. Norwich needed to, you know, I said this before, but when you abandon your principles as a head coach, when you move away from what made you successful in the first place, that's it, really, isn't it? There's nothing there. There is no gain for Norwich City chasing short-term results, because to save a head coach whose days are numbered, it doesn't make sense. And you know, before the game, sort of the noises that you heard were that they didn't want to make a change, that this could limp on. I just don't think that's tenable. I don't think that's a position that can hold now. I think you had 1,100 Norwich City fans up here today who deserved a better approach to a game than that, and deserved to see their Norwich team perform a lot better than that. And the standards and expectations of this club cannot be allowed to slip, where a run of form like this is acceptable, where being this position in the table is acceptable. Norwich were playing Premier League football 2 years ago. That means nothing if you don't get your strategy right. But any idea that this season can just be written off and left to kind of dawdle and die, I think is for the birds. The recruitment strategy increasingly looks bizarre. You've got players like Shane Duffy, who, you know, I think has made positive contributions at points. There's also been a hell of a lot of errors, and David Wagner has kept faith with him and Ben Gibson throughout this run. You've got players like that on 3-year deals. I think Ben Napper is walking into a situation that is incredible, really. And this is what I talk about when you speak about a rudderless. There's no approach, there's no identity, there's no plan for the next 3 or 4 years. And again, I feel like I'm using the word reset, and it shouldn't be that, because this season should not be allowed to just peter out and die, I don't think. But what is becoming crystal clear is that something has to give. You can't go on a run of form like this at any other club in the Football League. David Wagner would not last this, and it's not a tenable position. The fans have lost faith, and to be honest, it looked like some of the players had lost faith towards the end. There were points 3-1 down where players weren't tracking back. They weren't showing the same energy that you would expect them to when wearing a Norwich City shirt. And some of these players were ones who had just come onto the pitch not long before that. So I take issue with this being described as an okay performance. It wasn't that, and no expectations should fall that Norwich City producing okay performances, if you want to label it like that, are acceptable. I like David Wagner. As a human being, it bears little relevance to anything, by the way, but as a human being, he's honest, he knows the game, he understands, I think, where he's in, he understands the criticism that he's getting. It's part of it, right? But you look at it as well, this is a man who had really, really long runs without a win at Schalke, at Huddersfield. Both of those times, I think Schalke was like 1 in 18 or something ridiculous. Yes, mitigation in terms of lots of changes off the pitch. And I guess similarly here. But Norwich City have injuries. They have Ashley Barnes and Josh Sargent out. If your whole system is based, and the success of your team is based on 2 players being available to you for 46 games, you are on a really bad way. There's no team that doesn't lose players, and there are no teams that don't lose players at crucial points. What other teams do, what other coaches do, what probably better coaches do, is they're able to adapt, they're able to tweak, they're able to change what they're doing. So I don't want to keep harping back to Daniel Farke, but I'll give you a very real example from recent Norwich City perspective, which I think a lot of people can grasp, but obviously because it's relevant. Norwich City under Daniel Farke started poorly. They got absolutely hammered 4-0 at Millwall. The 2 centre-backs involved in that game never played for the football club again. Alex Tetty was reinstated into the side. Grant Hanley was purchased. They shored it up. They changed, but the fundamentals didn't. Norwich City was still a possession-hungry side. They still moved the ball really well, but there were mechanics. There were building blocks there. And at the moment, there's no real building blocks in this team. There's no one that you would hang your hat on, maybe beyond Gabby Sarah and John Rowe, who was taken off after 60 minutes. If that's not fitness related or he didn't ask to come off, then the mind boggles. And that's, Wagner has ultimately failed to adapt what Norwich City are doing, apart from today, where he completely changed his approach. He's not fixed the footballing solutions, the footballing issues that have occurred time and time again around defensive transitions, around the way they defend, around how open and exposed they are. And that ultimately is why the writing is on the wall for him. And I think everyone can see that and sense that and feel that. Now it needs someone to do something about it. And again, it can't be a holding pattern. There are people employed in positions of power to make tough decisions, and they're paid well to make those tough decisions. So someone has to make it. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's someone who's not at the club. It doesn't matter if it's someone who is at the club. But seriously, honestly, this cannot be allowed to just meander on aimlessly and just feeling that, oh, well, it's okay because someone else will, pushed aside, waiting for someone else to sort it out. It needs to be grappled with now, because if not, and I said it in my last verdict, Norwich City are sleepwalking into something horrendous. Well, they're in complete freefall. There's no form about them. There's no confidence about them. There's no structure about them. There's very few positives about them. Enough should be enough. The expectations of this football club should not be to be producing performances where they're at, to have results where they're at. It's 6 wins in 24 games now for David Wagner, obviously spanning 2 seasons, which is a little bit unfair. But to go on 2 of these runs as a head coach, well, the data tells you that actually the anomaly is the good run. It's the start of the season, and Norwich are a million light years away from that, and a million light years away from how they started the campaign. And so we're here, and this has to be the end of the road. It has to be. The idea that we can rock up at Carrow Road next Sunday with David Wagner in charge, with Norwich City sitting amongst the flames, sipping a cup of tea, saying this is fine. I just don't think that's credible, and I don't think the fans are in a position where they would support that. Fans deserve better than this. I said it on Tuesday night, and I'll say it again. This football club should not be allowed to just meander and to fall and to float and to drift. Someone has to grab hold of this. And do you know what? That might mean a tough decision. And ultimately, if no one does make that decision, then it falls upon the people right at the top of the club. Change a foot or no change a foot, it doesn't matter. Someone needs to be big enough, brave enough, bold enough to prevent what is a real crash collision course. And if they don't do that, then this will continue. The trends suggest that, the performances suggest that, the results suggest that. There is nothing there at this moment in time that suggests that this is going to change. And my fear is, if we all rock up at Carrow Road on Sunday, that we get a performance that is meek, we get a performance that is poor, and things get really nasty. And to be honest, David Wagner doesn't deserve that on a human level, and it's very difficult to be thrust into the middle of that situation. It's very difficult to take those criticisms, but football's ruthless, and it's kind of what you sign up for as a manager, I'm afraid, and he knows that. He will know that more than anyone. So yeah. Positives, anyone? I thought Hwang Yu-jo in the first half did well, put himself well, scored a goal well. It was a really difficult role, doing that number 9 role, and he's taken a lot of criticism, so I wanted to point out that he was good in parts and was key to kind of the transitional stuff that Norwich did. Rowe tried to get close to him at points, and he fought well, particularly in the first half. There was a couple of poor decisions in the second, sort of tired as the game went on. And Kellen Fisher as well, first start in the EFL, wonderful achievement for a player who was playing for Bromley 6 months ago. Offensively, thought he was really good, struggled a little bit with Jack Clark, but to be honest, if there's a right back in this league that doesn't struggle with, if there's a right back in this league that doesn't struggle with Jack Clark, I would like to see them. And the final point I would make is this. There's one team out there today playing with youth, playing with vigour, playing with excitement, playing brilliant football at points, with players who are really dynamic and athletic and will cause problems and have a clear style of play. And the other is Norwich City. And given the venture that was promised when this bold new direction was taken in 2017, that should never have been the case. So there we go. Again, I feel like I've rambled, and I feel like I've kind of repeated a lot of what I said on Tuesday night. But this is now at a stage where something's got to be done. It has to be done. It can't just be left to meander on like this. And there are good people who are being put through stuff that they don't deserve to be put through. And at the moment, it's almost like, kindness, isn't it? So yeah, there we go. From the Stadium of Light, a dark Stadium of Light. The lights are out. There's doing some TV recording down there for the ITV highlights tonight. I think I'll be giving that some. I'll still be on the road, to be honest. But yeah, there we go. Hats off to all of those Norwich City fans in that away end just to my right. They were fabulous. I couldn't see you for much of the game because the press box is so high here that it's near on impossible to see them. All I could see really is just a row at the front of Norwich fans streaming out towards the end, which is quite right. Thank you very much for watching. Pinken.com, the place to go to see David Wagner's quotes and whatnot. And we will see you very, very soon.